Welcome to the Practice Podcast, conversations probing the nature of practice. I'm your host, Dave Fearon.
Well, in this conversation with Sam Tindal, you're going to hear a confirmation of a conjecture that Peter Vale and I had about the nature of practice itself, and that it is A, very personal, and B, that is rooted in our history, in our own personal history. So whatever we become at any moment in time, if we kept doing it long enough so that we feel quite adept at our practice, it's probably traceable back to somewhere early in our life. In this case with Sam, he started to become fascinated with noisy, fast cars when he was 10 or 11. And what young boy or girl isn't? I think quite a few are. And certainly he was. So you'll hear him talk about how from there, he's now reached a point where he has a very unique business rebuilding V8 engines for fast trucks, fast cars, and he does it all pretty much by himself now. He's become so good at it. So the roots of his practice, if we were to visit him 10 years from now, 20 years from now, he still may be fashioning automobile drive chains, or he may own a whole new Tesla kind of business. Who knows? But I know this: he loves cars and he loves the engines, and people love what he builds. So here is Sam Tindal. Now, this is a conversation with a young gentleman who I am quite sure is younger than my shoes. I wear old shoes, but Sam Tindal is a junior in high school. 16, Sam?
That's correct. Yep. I'm 17. Sorry.
Oh, well, no. Now you're older than my shoes, because my shoes are only 16 years old. But I knew if you go through my list of podcast folks, you'll find one with Joe Tindal, who's Sam's dad and former student of mine, and a terrific practitioner of managerial leadership. So as I was following Joe along over the years, I discovered a new Facebook group called Sam's V8 Shop. Is that correct, the title?
That's correct.
What? So, and what I really liked, along with everything else about discovering this, was that Sam was about 14. And there he was, interested in V8 engines. And not many people, even 40, are interested in V8 engines anymore, because we've learned how to drive cars with barely any cylinders at all. That was one fascination. But the other was that Joe and Sam collaborated and started to do videos. And that was very progressive back in the day. So you would step out, Sam, and you'd be standing next to one of your poor, rusted, broken old engines and say, I'm going to turn this engine into something that someone will pay money to purchase, and it'll make that truck or car rock and roll. So let's start, Sam, with before you were interested in V8 engines.
Yep.
What was a moment when you said to yourself, maybe I could get a hold of an old engine block and see what I could do with it? Do you remember that time?
Yeah. So it really all started, I was probably like 10, 11 when I really started trying to like get my dad into this stuff, because he always used to tell me all these stories about his hot rods that he used to have when he was younger. Mm-hmm. And I thought that was really cool. So, I would send him like Craigslist ads and all kinds of, junk car ads that I thought were pretty cool. And I saw potential in them. And, he thought they were cool too, but we don't really have the room for a project car. At the time, we didn't. Mm-hmm. So we went to a local swap meet just to kind of look around, see what was going on. And basically, we were looking around. After an hour or two, we found a 350 Chevy block for, I think it was like $50. And of course, it was not pretty. It was pretty rough. It was all taken apart and everything. But and at the same time, while I was there, I saw Big Al's Toy Box, who has a run stand on one of their trailers they have, and of course they have display motors and stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
So we kind of put two and two together, like, oh, this motor needs some work, and I could basically do exactly what Big Al's doing, just on a smaller scale, instead of like a 950 horse blower big block Chevy, just a run of the mill small block.
Uh-huh.
So we started small. We got that 350. It ended up the block was cracked, so we were like, oh, that's not a big deal. It was $50. So then we bought another one for like 120 or something like that. I had a lot more parts. So we kind of put parts from both motors together, and then me and my dad were talking about the run stand from Big Al's on the trailer that they had at the swap meet.
Yeah,
and we did some more research on that and how other people were doing that. So my dad was nice enough to make a little plan on how to build this run stand. And, I really couldn't have done it without him. Like I was like probably 11 or 12 at the time. Like I never would have gone that far with it, like I just thought they looked pretty cool and stuff. The sound, of course, of the motors and everything. But, we were like really getting into it after he made the plans, and we got some metal for it, and I learned how to weld when I was like 12 or 13, I believe.
Oh, gee.
So yeah, I was, this little kid. I was welding together this run stand, and we got that 350 block, and we put it on the run stand, and guess what? It ran pretty good, and I still have that motor to this day.
You kept that original motor?
Yep. It's in the garage. Yep.
That'll be for the Sam Tindal Hall of Fame someday.
Yeah. It's going to go in the museum one day.
It'll have a glass case over it. This is my first 350.
Yeah.
Then I'm going to cut into the story a little bit, because one of the things that Peter Vale and I have said a lot about in the nature of practice, which you are becoming in this story, is that you don't do things alone for long before you really need someone else. Right. So you partnered with your dad.
Right. Yeah. I mean, like I said, I wouldn't be this far without him. Obviously, like he taught me pretty much everything I know on how to take motors apart, how to, correctly put them back together. Cause that's not everyone knows how to do that. And that's a really valuable skill, because, he knows how to do it the right way. He knows how to do it the wrong way. And that's, not everyone knows how to do that. So that's definitely a really special thing. And I'm very lucky to have that.
Yeah. Now I know something about your dad, and why I think that all of this is so good for you. I really made it a point to get to know my students as best they would allow. And Joe's story, which he then told to my classes when he was my guest a few years later, was that he grew up in a town in New Hampshire. Maybe there were 100 people. He wasn't quite sure how many might have been there when he was telling the story. And he, like you, was a kid who got an interest in motors and cars and vehicles, and then eventually became a very, very good mechanic, and came to Connecticut, where he was told you could make more money as a mechanic.
Yeah.
So that's how I got to meet him. But by then he realized that he also is interested in how the businesses he was doing mechanic work for were running, and he had some more of a general sense of what I call managerial leadership. I'm really glad, even though the world really needs great mechanics like your dad and you as much as you want to be, it's even better to have someone who knows how to put the whole thing together as a business. So you were on the verge with that 350. That could have been just it. Maybe you'll find someone to buy it, maybe not. what then raised your aspirations to become a businessman at 13 or 14?
Yeah. So, I mean, it was pretty crazy from then. I mean, like basically my dad was like, he posted a couple pictures of it and stuff on Facebook. Mm-hmm. And, before you know it, a bunch of his friends knew about me and they're like, oh, that's pretty cool. Like, cause it's not every day you get to see a motor on a run stand and you can really like walk around the whole motor while it's running and stuff. Like a lot of people think that's cool. So then we were like, oh, we should take this to the car show because everyone would love that. So I think that's really where it started growing because all the local people with their hot rods, they're like, oh, this is pretty cool. You gotta like keep doing this. So, all the smiles on everyone's faces and stuff like that. That's kind of like what got me like, okay, I gotta like do more of this. You know what I mean? So yeah.
It was a community that you discovered. Right. They come out of the woodwork when they see something that really captures their fancy. Not only that, hey, here's another source of engines and people to talk about. Here's someone young, and why don't we give them some support? And so they did.
I think that's the biggest thing, just because I'm still young, but at the time I was obviously very young. I was like 12. 12-year-old right next to this motor that's running, and I'm revving it up and stuff. Like, not all 12-year-olds are doing that kind of stuff. Nothing close to that. So
no, not something. And I remember the sounds as I listened to various videos over the years. Yeah. Those things really roar when you hit that little button there that made it it was a roar. So around the neighborhood, oh, there's Sam.
Oh yeah,
at the run stand.
Great.
So how did it grow from there? I mean, you got a little community looking at it. They're encouraging you, but you're going to need more than a run stand. You're going to need an indoors because Connecticut tends to get a little nasty in the winter, and other expenses. And here it is, about 4 years later. Let's do a quick here and then we'll go back. But right now, if I were to come onto your property, what would I see as Sam's V8 shop? Take me for a quick tour.
Right. So first of all, I have, I'm lucky enough to have two garages. One is at my mom's and one is at my dad's house. So my dad's it's a really standard 1-car garage. Nothing special. I think I probably have like 3 or 4 motors at that house right now. And that's pretty much the final assembly. Like, that's where I take my pictures and all that stuff. Mm-hmm. And he also has his Snap-on toolbox there from when he used to be a technician. So first of all, I'm really lucky to have all those tools at my use, because that's a big step forward. Instead of, because I do have my own tools at my mom's house. But they're, obviously they're not all Snap-on. Mm-hmm. So at that house, I pretty much have all the final assembly and the run stand and all that kind of like the clean work. And then here at my mom's, I have a 2-bay garage. I have my Camaro in 1 bay, which is on a rotisserie right now. I'm restoring it. It's pretty cool. It's got the subframe's off right now and everything. And it's a 73 Camaro. So, and then in the other bay, I got I probably have like 8 or 9 motors here. They're all in, and most of them are all in pieces, but this is basically where after my customer, I'll pick up a motor for my customer and they'll want me to go through it or whatever, or a block. And I'll do all the dirty work here. I'll drain the coolant, drain the oil. I'll, take all the old paint off here usually and, spray out all the oil galleys with the hose and get them all cleaned up. And then I can actually machine the cylinders. I can bore them out.
You do that too?
Yeah. I just started doing that about, I think it was like 2 years ago now.
That's a big skill right there. That's used to have to job that out,
Oh yeah. Yeah. And it's really cool to learn that. And it's like, it's also a way cheaper because we for a while, it was honestly pretty hard to make some good profit off these motors just because it was so expensive to machine them. I machine them here. I basically do all the dirty work here. Then I can bring them over to my dad's house in the 1-car garage and do all the final work and all that.
Now, that means that you have an extremely patient mother, because
oh yeah,
I did hosing the oil down and all the rest, and she, no place for her to put her car. So
actually, I can't fit her car in after I move some stuff around. So that's
go.
The one rule. So, but yeah, so I also have to thank my mom for being really supportive through these past couple of years, because like sometimes it's pretty chaotic, and she's always supported me ever since it started, pretty much. So that's a big key, to have that kind of support from both parents. But you mentioned the word profit. Now, I used to teach at a business school, and profit seemed to be pretty much on people's minds in the business school. As you're learning all of this about being a technician from scratch and learning all this, what's your sense of business you've been developing over these years? If someone were to say, Sam, have you become a businessman? And what's your answer to that? Well, I mean, I feel like I feel like it's more of like, I guess you could call it a business, because when you have a business, you're doing it's a service for someone, right?
That's right.
And through that service, you're like helping the person, and you're doing what they want you to do, but you can also make you're also benefiting from it, because you're making a profit. And at the same, especially for me, I learn so much through every motor I do. Like, there's always something big that I always learn. So for me, I don't really see it as a business as much as some other people might, just because I learned so much about every motor I do, it's more kind of fun to just see what's different about each one.
That should be, by the way, what every business person feels about his or her business. They should see it as a service, not just a bunch of metal and wires and things, but a real service. The other thing is the learning. And what I'm hearing is that every engine you've worked on, and you've got quite a few lying around there, you look at it after you've taken it to order, and you go, it all looks pretty much the same. And then, wait a minute, this looks a little different, or this part's out of service now, so is that an example of some of the variety of challenges each engine presents to you?
Oh yeah, for sure. There's always got to be some challenge with each motor I do, whether it's with something limiting, maybe it's in the car, and that's I built a big block Chevy, and we were limited by the kind of cylinder heads that we wanted to use. Yeah,
because the hood could restrict how much.
Yeah, and in some intake manifolds that I want to use are tall, and they just they make better power sometimes, and a lot of the time the customer wants to keep a factory hood on, so I had to go with a lower style intake.
That means you have to adjust everything accordingly, right? Because it's a system.
Yeah, exactly. It all has to be a system. You can't go too crazy with some parts. While other parts are way more mild. You pretty much have to keep everything the same, in the same ballpark as each other.
What are some of the customers doing with the Sam V8 engine?
Right, that's a good question. So, one of my customers, he has a big lifted K5 Blazer. His name's Gary. He's a great guy. And it's a pretty tall truck, and he takes it to the fairs, and he goes to the tractor pulls.
Oh, wow.
He beats the crap out of it, and it runs perfect. So he loves that thing, and I'm really glad it's holding up for him. And then another motor I have, most of them are honestly just street machines. Most of them don't really see the track that much. But a lot of them just, just get beat the hell out of them on the street. But hey, that's what I like to see. So yeah.
Now, so there's a sort of a category of customer who's been attracted to you over the years. It seems to me that when you started this story with me, Sam, you said you were kind of interested in hot rods. That's what we used to call them when I was a kid too.
Right.
And the noise and the speed and all the rest.
Yeah, and the pre-paint, big tires and everything.
Oh yeah. And a lot of your customers then have either these big old Blazers or some big trucks or what we used to call stock cars and that kind of thing.
Yeah, there's I have a Nova, an El Camino, Firebird, first gen Firebird.
Wow.
That's another one.
And those all need to be at least the V8 in order for them to satisfy their customers.
Yeah, I pretty much all I do right now are 383 stroker small blocks, and I've done a few big blocks too. I've done a 555 big block that's going in a 69 Corvette convertible.
Oh wow, a Corvette, Corvette.
Yeah.
Now, here's the thing. These people are buying an engine that you've rebuilt. It's not straight off the shelf. It's rebuilt.
Oh yeah.
And they're putting the pedal to the metal on an engine you built. So therefore, the quality that you put out the door is life and death in a sense, isn't it?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's definitely, I mean, some people might think it's like stressful to like have, because, it really should be, but like the way I build the motors, like I triple check everything, obviously, and you really have to do it right. You really have to like triple check everything, measure everything. Like you literally have to measure every single part with every single clearance, just to make sure it's going to work right. Cause I've seen plenty of motors that obviously weren't built right. And guess what? They didn't last because haven't. Yeah. Cause then I have to fix it.
Yeah.
Like I've seen pretty much, I've seen, spun crank bearings. I've seen, leaky oil galley plugs. I've seen the wrong crankshaft in a motor.
No kidding.
Yeah. Yep.
So some people are willing to exploit the trust of those customers, do things on the cheap, do them quick to move them through assembly line fashion, whereas you are indeed a custom shop.
Oh yeah,
absolutely. Your name is on that engine for sure. Right. Who's your quality inspector? The one who does the final checks with you? I'm guessing. I know.
Yeah. So it's obviously my dad. He's pretty good at that. He, of course, he knows everything. He's probably the smartest guy I know when it comes to this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, when I really started doing stuff on my own, when I was like 13, 14-ish, he'd have to come out in the garage a lot more often just to make sure, like, okay, the piston's orientated right, the rings are orientated right on the piston, and the rod is on the right way and stuff. But over the past year, like I've pretty much been on my own since then, and it's been going pretty great. So
that is wonderful. All these months that Peter Vale and I worked on our book and on the podcast, and since after he passed away 2 years ago, I've always felt that there was one thing that we said over and over again that was our way of thinking about practice, and that is that you continually meet in new challenges because you stick to it, and you continually grow and develop accordingly. So it's a real payoff.
Right.
You commit yourself, you lock in on, I'm going to be a rebuilder, and I'm going to build engines that'll go in a Corvette or a Firebird. And therefore, every single thing that you do from accepting the order, which is part of the process, to collecting the money is under your watch now, but you have grown from needing a reinforcement of your dad's expertise to the point where you feel very confident. That's growth. Now, what goes from here is development. So you still got a year of high school.
Yep.
You got a bunch of engines around. Do you see more of this ahead for the next year until you graduate? More engines?
Oh yeah, for sure. I have, pretty sure I have like at least five more motors lined up that I got to get done by the summer. So yeah, I can only imagine where I'm going to be in another year.
But now, in addition to having that kind of responsibility and pressure,
right?
You got schoolwork and athletics.
Yeah, I mean, so that's a good question. So, I feel like I'm a pretty decent student. I do all my homework. I study when I need to. And then when it comes to athletics, I was doing football for a while, but it was just too much, especially in the summer when that's like my busiest time of the year.
Yeah, that'd be a real conflict.
Yeah, I really loved it, but it was just too hard to do both. Like I'd much rather build motors than play football. It's it's just more fun to me, but
that it has to be fun.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah.
So another year of Sam's V8 shop in its two locations.
Right.
When you graduate, do you see this business going on? And if so, how would you want to craft it so that it would still be fun and fits into your lifestyle?
Right. That's a good question. So, I mean, the way I'd love to do it is to keep it pretty local. So I'd love to keep going to all the local car shows and basically like keep going and just keep going bigger with the way I'm going right now, because like I met so many people, around my area just because they know who I am from like Instagram or Facebook or something. And I don't know. I just would really love to just to only get bigger, just to find more customers. Probably me and my dad have been talking about building a garage for a while. So I'd love to build a proper like assembly room and like workshop and everything. I think that'd be a great setup, and just to make things more efficient. And I'm pretty excited for that actually. So.
Yeah, that sounds like a great goal. And would you'd be bringing other people in to do some of the work?
Yeah, I mean, it'd be really like for me. I'm. It's probably no surprise, but I'm a very like hands-on like learner. So I mean, don't get me wrong. I like talking to customers and stuff, but sometimes it's like a little too much. Like sometimes I just need to I feel like I need someone else to do that stuff. So maybe I don't exactly know what it'd be called, but someone who just like kind of
a shop manager,
a manager,
do this help with the sales and
right, that'd be pretty.
All the accounting,
right, just so I can be more efficient with the hands-on part of the job, because that's I feel like my strongest point.
And that is the point, really. Again, folks, I'm talking to our listeners. The point of what distinguishes a practice from just doing work is that it lines up with your strongest point so far. So there are other things you have to do to keep the roof over your head and bread on the table, and you'll do those things. But the joy and the drive to do more comes from really being well aligned with who you are, what you're made of. And you are a born, natural motor technician. You've got such a gift for that. It may branch out to other things. I understand there's a Camaro in the offing.
Yeah.
But you like to work with your hands, and that's smart work. That's not just hitting a hammer against a piece of metal. A little bit about the Camaro, because you're 17 and pretty soon, is there a license in your future?
Oh yeah, I have a license right now, and I actually have a Silverado I'm driving around too. So I actually built the motor in that thing, and I put I think I put like almost 4,000 miles on that motor, and it's running perfect. So
running perfect. Now,
yeah.
You remember speed limit? Speed limit?
Yeah. Yeah.
There's plenty of people around who like to stop a young guy driving a truck or a Camaro.
For sure.
So this is good. This is a very fulfilling conversation. I'm watching my clock.
Yeah.
Do you have any questions of me, your dad's former teacher, and now your friend and your dad's friend?
Yeah. So what would you do? Let's say I'm 18, and like what would you do in my situation to basically like expand my business, or not even expand, or just like make it, like, what would you do to make it better? Would you make it like necessarily like bigger with like more people and like a big building and stuff? Or would you like, where would you like start from there?
There's a trend now, Sam, that it goes like this. People who work in big companies, like your dad has off and on for years, still does, and others, are stealing now as the pandemic has shaped our outlook about ourselves. They're feeling more and more like they do not want to be a number. They don't want to be part of something that they have little or no control over, except maybe the job at hand. So your interest in keeping something custom size, boutique size, and that is the walls and ceilings and floor of that business are you and your reputation. Think about it that way.
Right.
It'll have, and that is a rare opportunity, and yet your generation, we call you Z, is moving very much in that direction. Now, the trade-off is you're not going to pile a lot of money away. You want to be smart about it, but you have to adjust your lifestyle accordingly. Well, here's my point about that. If you got a great reputation, you like to go to the meets, you like to see you like to see something driving down your road that you put the engine in for you, that's very, very satisfying. Yeah. Now on the dual track, however, as we mentioned before we started the recording, you've got a couple of really good community colleges right around where you live. Right. And if you stay in that area, and you can start putting together maybe a business course or some kind of parallel study, because at some point you might think, okay, I'm 26 now. I'm 27. I've done a great job, but I'm ready to go bigger. And therefore I want to have at least an associate degree, and maybe like your dad who went from associate, maybe I want to punch it out to a bachelor's or even an MBA, but it's not a necessity anymore, because you got something that a whole hell of a lot of my former students didn't have. And that is what we call a trade. Yeah. And you guys rule. Yeah. So that's, so the long-winded answer to that is stay small, and remember the business will be you with walls and a door. Right. And it'll be the sound of someone going along at maybe 65 or 70. If they're driving in Maine, they can go 70, 75. Right. They'll be buzzing along, and they'll say to the person on the seat next to them, listen to that engine. Yeah. And can you believe it? That engine was built by a guy named Sam, who I think was younger than Doc Fearon's shoes.
That's great. Thank you so much.
No, this has been great. I'm going to turn off the recording, and we'll say a couple of words, but you've given me a great podcast episode, Sam.
No problem. I'm glad I'm in it.
Sam Tindal. Remember that name. You're going to see it on a sign outside of a beautiful little shop somewhere in central Connecticut. If you'd like to hear more, listen in on Spotify.
soon.